But if I can go into what I've been playing this past 2 weeks, I've been playing a bunch of stuff actually. I believe I spoke about beating Spider-Man.
Yes, you did.
It was meh.
Yeah.
Quantum Conundrum was better than that. It was good. Nothing really blew my mind except for one surprise summer hit. It's not even a hit. I don't think it sold that much, but Spec Ops the Line.
Oh right, yeah. So
Wow.
what did you think to
Wow.
that then?
The commercials, the promotion, all that stuff on the internet will lead you to believe that this is just another bland, brown, cover-based Gears of War, Call of Duty type shooter.
Uh-huh.
The gun mechanics may be reminiscent of those franchises, but the character development, and the story are so much more. Just so much more. It's worth playing through if you haven't played it. I think the only criticism I've seen of the story so far is the length, and I think for me it was a fine length.
I think we were talking about this in the last podcast that a few people had recommended to me to play it just for the campaign. So
yeah, just the campaign.
I went and rented it out and played through the campaign, and I thought the campaign length was pretty much spot on.
Yeah,
it was long enough to get the story out of the way, but it kind of didn't outstay its welcome.
That's exactly the feeling I got. It was just enough. Even if you think it was short, if you were to extend it anymore, you'd just be putting in unnecessary filler. I think they hit every beat they wanted to hit for each character, and especially the main character. And by the end of it, it's so satisfying to see an ending wrap up so wonderfully. And also, you have 4 different endings. I think maybe
exactly.
5. Or was it 4 or 5?
I think it might have been 5.
Yeah, I think it's 5 different endings, which is technically more than Mass Effect 3. And each ending is better than Mass Effect 3.
Yeah,
so.
I think as you just kind of like said, I think that the mechanics, there was nothing wrong with them. They were really solid. Shooting mechanics in the game, the cover mechanics worked absolutely fine. It just really didn't add anything to it. Do you know what I mean? It just did what it did really well. And there's if you haven't played the game, you get the option to kind of like direct 2 of your teammates that are around. Which
I never did.
No, I mean, basically, it essentially boils down to either chuck a grenade or snipe that person. And I think they could have really kind of expanded on that a little bit more, maybe to kind of flank the enemies or something. It just ended up being chuck a grenade or snipe. That was it. But for the story, there was at least two instances in the actual campaign mode and in the story where I actually sat back and felt regret for my actions in the game.
Yeah.
And I can't think of any real other game. Maybe once in Mass Effect 2 did I feel like almost such regret, like I had to pause the game for a moment and just take in like what it was that I'd just done.
Yeah, I mean, like the game will try to sell you on that there are decisions you need to make throughout the game, but really there's only really a few decision points. But the decision points are so well done.
Yeah, they've got weight.
And they weigh on you. They really do weigh on you.
They've really got weight.
It's all for such a really good, rich payoff that I really can't remember. It's been a while since I've played a game from beginning to end, and at the end said, "Yep, that's it. That's the end of the game. That's perfect."
No, exactly. I thought it was a lot more well handled than like the last 3 Call of Duty campaigns combined.
Oh yeah, like it told a legitimate story all the way through, and I almost feel like I could owe them an apology, because again, like when I first saw the game, like the very first commercials for it is the main character just walking towards the camera with no expression on his face, with this brown explosion in the background.
Yeah,
And the game is actually him with so much expression. It's so much regret, so much.
I know in the last podcast I promised that I wouldn't actually do this, but I'm just gonna quickly get this out of the way.
Okay.
I think that this is kind of like the Call of Duty effect. That I think that when a game like this comes out, and the people just think, oh, it's a Call of Duty clone. Oh, it's like this, and it really isn't. It really isn't. And I think just the advertising and the way they kind of tried to draw in the Call of Duty players, it might have put so many people off from actually at least going out and renting it or trying the game out. And I do really think it's a game that needs to be, if you're interested in a real story in games, not just like, oh, the Russians are invading. If you're interested in a real story and actions that have got weight, you know, go and play Spec Ops: The Line. It's brilliant. I'm going to say this without any spoilers, but you've played it, you finished it, so you'll know what I mean. But there was the bit when it's maybe about halfway through the game and things aren't really working out all that right, and there's a few divisions in your squad, and there's a bit where you get to man like a mortar.
Oh no!
And I completely wasn't after that level. I completely wasn't expecting what happened, and that was one of the bits where I sat back, and I was like, man, that is so well done. That is extremely well done.
It was. It's an army action game where you're running around shooting people, watching heads explode, but it ends up being one of the most classiest, tasteful games of the year. For sure.
And if honestly, if you're listening to this podcast now, if you're sitting out here and you haven't played Spec Ops: The Line, if you like military shooters but you like a good story, if you really like a good story, go and rent the game, just buy it, trade. It's worth a playthrough, and I think you'll play through it. I played through it 3 times just to see the other parts of the decisions that I've made and things like that, and every single time it was just, I wasn't bored.
No,
it's not
at
like,
all.
it's this bit again. It was just as enthralling every single time that I played it. I think it's a real sleeper hit game, and I think it's going to have a cult following for everybody that's played it. I can't see anybody turning around after they've played it going, oh well, that was shit.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's one of the best single player experiences you're going to get probably this generation. And again, it's really the gameplay itself comes off a little not bland, but I'll say standard.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't really do anything extra as far as gunplay goes. But that's really sort of your means of getting to moving the story along.
I think that's it, isn't it? The gameplay mechanics is essentially just the delivery system for the story.
Yeah, and you're not just sitting back watching a cutscene unfold like a Final Fantasy game or something.
You're taking
like
part.
Yeah. Like you created what's happening next.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's really good. If you haven't played it, you have to play it. It's a must-play game at this point.
You're actually talking about it, you're making me want to play through it again.
Now, the only bad part about it, this is a big part. The multiplayer is completely forgettable.
It's
completely forgettable.
Yeah.
It's unnecessary.
It didn't need it, did it? That was the thing with me. It was, if it was going to get a thumbs down, it would be because you put so much time into actually developing a multiplayer game just to have that little tick on the back of the box. Contains online multiplayer. It's like, it doesn't need it.
You know what? But that's a rock and a hard place for this game, though. because if they didn't have multiplayer, they'd be asking $60 for a not long game.
Yeah.
So this is one of the games. This is one of those games that actually might have needed a multiplayer or co-op experience, and what they delivered was something. Again, this just wasn't good enough.
I think you're saying that I would have preferred co-op. They could have put 3-player co-op in it.
Oh,
You
most definitely.
could have controlled every member of the squad.
Most definitely.
That would have made it. It would have gone up in my estimations for that if you could have played it through with other people, because I would have loved to have heard the people that I was playing with reactions to certain moments in the game. So I do actually believe you would have had to discuss it. You would have had to say, shit, what are we going to do? What are we going to do at this moment?
Exactly, and I could see them adding different endings in different situations where it's not just you versus the enemy, and your enemies may be someone completely different and more close to you. But I mean, if I have one bad thing to say, is just that multiplayer was just really, not even really terribly done, but just so meh.
Yeah, there was just nothing to it, was it? It was just it's a tick in the box.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Bland maps, it was just. And again, they could if they were going to put multiplayer in, it's like, why not run with it? Why not get the creative minds that did the campaign and try and put a different slant on multiplayer?
Yeah.
Why not try and add something rather than just go, oh well, shit. I suppose we better put multiplayer on the back, otherwise nobody's going to buy it.
Yeah, I mean, like if the single player was meh and the multiplayer was meh, I wouldn't even be addressing it to this point.
Yeah.
But seeing how well they did that single player campaign, I know that team, maybe given the time and resources, I don't know what held them back, but given whatever they needed, could come up with a much better multiplayer experience.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so Spec Ops The Line, get it if you haven't got it already. Like, it's definitely worth. The multiplayer, I see. Like, for me, the multiplayer is really forgettable, but I've seen people enjoy Max Payne's multiplayer, so I guess there's an audience for really bland multiplayer. So if you're one of those people that like throwaway multiplayer, there you go. But it's at least worth the rental. It's probably super cheap right now.
I think the only way you're going to play the multiplayer, and I'm not even sure of this, but it's just if you're an achievement whore.
Yeah.
You'll go on, mop up the few achievements, and then that's it. Like, no one will ever say, "Oh, do you remember Spec Ops multiplayer? that was really good, wasn't it?" Like, no one's ever going to say that in history. But the campaign, if they've played it, they will go, remember Spec Ops? You know?
Oh yeah, and if you haven't, they'll gladly give you their copy because it's that good.